Big fella, what are you wondering about?
Termites.
Yeah, it's a pretty heavy start.
So we have been doing work at the house, Casa de Masoner, trying to prepare the big move for the girls to get their own space because Max it's time. And the warden has been working her ass off down there in the basement, trying to get everything, ready to go and stuff. And I've been kind of just in that lazy ass rut that I was talking about, but been helping a little bit. And Monday, Martin Luther King Day, that is a federal holiday. So we were off and we decided to go. We slept in, went to lunch, came back home, and we were going to tackle some projects on the basement. And she was working on the stairwell going downstairs. She was taping off the steps to paint the walls on the stairwell going down, and I was finished sanding some spackle patches that we had, drywall mudded in and getting them all cleaned and ready for paint. And she got to the one. So you go down like 6 or 8 stairs to a landing, and then you turn and you go down 6 or 8 more down to the bottom. And she was in that landing area working on some stuff, and she said, "God damn, there's a lot of cold air coming under the baseboard, like on the shelf part, like up like on the, not on the bottom floor of the landing, but like that little trinket shelf that goes around the outsides,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there is. There's a lot of cold air coming in there. That's wild." So we went and got the Spud bar, the old Wonder bar, and we popped that piece of baseboard off of that, and it was just wide open to the outside. And I was like, holy shit. Like, there is a literal hole in the wall outside.
What side of the house would it be on?
East. And go outside, and she's like, "Oh yeah, well, it's running congruently with, is congruent the word that I'm looking at?
I don't know.
Concurrent. It's running in the same line as that gutter failure that we had.
So it would be running perpendicular.
That's causing
right?
Parallel.
Parallel.
It's running with that same area of water damage from that gutter failure and the step flashing that wasn't there, and this whole problem that Rabbit had to bail us out of. This house that we live in was built on by the person that lived there. He was a construction worker and a carpenter by trade, but
you always cut corners on your own stuff.
I do believe that was the issue. So now we are kind of dealing with that aftermath. So go outside, and she's like, "Oh yeah, you can see it clear as a whistle right here." And it's cedar siding. And there was just like a small little like crack at the bottom of the wall where the sill plate sits on the formed wall for the basement.
Yeah.
So then she's like, "We need to take this piece of, we've got 3/4 inch native hickory it's the same flooring that's on this little shelf." I wish I knew what the word was, what that's called, but it's just a little shelf that runs around the stairwell midway down. Pop that piece off, and it is literally like a mega maze. There's just termites all in it. And they came in from the outside, I guess, and ate their way up into the sill plate.
Because they wouldn't eat cedar, would they?
No. They're not supposed to. But the only thing I can think of is with that gutter failure, there was a moisture collection right there. And they do say that's their prime time. They prefer wet wood. And
giggity.
Me too, right? But they said that could be the issue, which drew them there. And then once they were there, it just appeared as water damage. And then when we fixed that water damage issue, the termites were still in there, just letting her eat in that section of wall. So, to my much to my dismay, I was like, this has turned into a huge deal now. So it went from literally like sanding little drywall patches and getting ready to paint to now we're going to like rip walls down.
Now, is any of that like is your foundation block or
No, they're poured walls.
okay? So at least you don't have that.
We'll be fine on that aspect. So
Yeah.
what we're going to have to do is I called a buddy. I'll just give him a free plug, but a friend of mine, Jose Galan with 812 Home Improvement.
Jose was in the neighborhood.
I punched him up immediately on that afternoon because I didn't know what to do. Like I was like, holy shit, it's, Monday was one of them cold ass days. I think it was like 10 or 11 degrees outside.
Real cold.
And I'm like, there's nothing I can't spray foam this hole shut because it's too cold. I don't know what I need to do as far as, I just didn't know. I was kind of in a spot. Like I got that real like bottomless doom pit feeling like, holy shit, we live in such a dump. Like this is terrible. And called him up. He come out. He's like, holy shit. You know what I mean? I was like, yeah, you got it, buddy. And he called a friend of his up that was working on another job. He had him and another guy out there and ended up getting the outside sealed up, to keep the elements and the wind and everything, the cold air out. And then they had some,
the good news is it's on the east side, not the west side.
yeah. So he got some fiberglass batting, some insulation and jammed it down in there and kind of get everything sealed off. Gave me the number for a pest control guy. He came out Tuesday afternoon, the next day, did an inspection, obviously said, yeah, you got them, but they're dormant now.
So they can't kill him now?
So they can't kill them now because A, the ground's froze. B, when the ground thaws, it's going to be too wet. So when they pump the insecticide into the soil, it's just going to propagate and wash out. So he said, what you're dealing with, he said, you're like number 4 or 5 that I've found so far this winter that we're kind of in this waiting game now. Like they're not in there now eating. They're obviously dormant. Like they don't go dormant, but they don't go when it's cold and dry. So, but when it starts warming up and, they start to come back alive, he said, we'll go in and they'll do this treatment where they'll drill every 18 inches and pump this shit in all the way around your foundation, the entire length. So like up there where the asphalt's at and all that shit, they're going to have to drill through the asphalt to pump that shit into the soil to keep them out of everywhere. And then what hopefully has to be done is then they'll come in and cut that section of wall out of the outside. You restud it, redeck it, insulate it, and then put some sort of siding over top of it to kind of put everything back together.
Did they go explore in any to see how far out it goes?
Not yet.
So we don't know how big of an issue.
We don't know how big of an issue, but with my initial investigation, when I was ripping drywall out from the inside that I thought was just water damage, because that's where we had a leak and stuff, over that roof, like I was saying earlier.
Is that from where the bedroom?
Mm-hmm.
So is there termite stuff in those walls?
No, because well, I don't know, but that's where. So this area that we're dealing with is right where the addition ties into the original structure. So we go from like a block wall foundation to a poured wall foundation. But the primary spot that we found is about 4 feet in from that transition area. So when he goes in to redeck that, like he's going to have to, they're going to have to peel off both sides really far just to get it to lay right and to get everything to look right. So
did the dogs ever give now looking back, was it?
Do dogs know about termites?
Well, they would hear it, or they'd hear something in the ground, or they could smell. I don't know. I'm just like dogs kind of have that sense of.
Do they?
You use dogs to find bed bugs.
Really?
Yeah, they train dogs to search for bed bugs.
My dog just eats old tampons and tears up the trash can. Like I don't think he's a bug dog at all. You know what I mean? Like
His name ain't Orkin.
No, yeah, I don't think he works for the Orkin man. Orkin man. But anyway, yeah. So like it was just like a terrible, terrible day Monday. And
so now, how do some places Do you treat for termites?
We had it looked at, and we kind of go a year on and 2 years off with like B&B doing
exactly
regular.
what this guy was saying.
But we don't do it year after year after year. But we've got before the addition, it's a brick home with a slab foundation. So not a whole lot of, I mean, I guess
they wouldn't find a food source like they found a food source there.
But now with the addition being stick built on and then just sided, so that's why we've really watched doing the year on, year off with B&B.
So I think with our house on 5th Street, since we did like a government housing program, like that first time home buyer stuff.
Yeah. You have to.
Yeah. Like it was one of the requirements to do it. So we had a company come out and they did the whole drilling and, put those
green pucks.
Yeah. Like that's exactly what it was. So this guy, same situation. They'll come in every 18 inches, put that stuff in the ground, and then he'll offer like a yearly, for $300, I'll come back every year and pump them full. We'll just keep it going. You know what I mean? Which he said, knowing that you have damage and that you have an active colony here, it may be worth your while to, after you pay that initial money to get the treatment. We're going to come back.
Do around the shop too, right?
We'll come back, I guess.
Probably ought to.
We'll come back every so often and take a look at it. You know what I mean? To keep it going. So I don't really know how it works. I've never had to deal with like active termites, but I know that they kill them from the ground is what he was saying.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
'Cause that's where they come from.
Yeah. So I guess the moral of the story is if you live in the woods in a wooden home that's wooden siding with wooden soffit
that gets
wet when it rains, that you have mulch surrounding with your landscaping, it's probably a great idea to, number one, make sure your gutters are clean.
Yeah, that probably would help.
Make sure your gutters are functioning.
Probably would help.
And get your damn house treated for termites. Because now we're going to have to deal with the aftermath of it. But
well, hopefully it's isolated and not a.
Well, I mean, even if you have to take out the whole wall, you got to take out the whole wall. It just has to be done. You know what I mean? Like that's just where we're at.
Sure, it's just I hope you don't.
You have to just nut up and do it.
I mean, I've just never thought about it, but we don't live in the woods.
I don't think you necessarily have to. I don't know why I threw that in there, but I think a person that would live on, Joe Schmo 3rd Street in Huntingburg, Indiana, would have just as big a chance of getting them as me.
Isn't that why some of that your bottom seal is treated lumber because they can't eat that?
I don't know. Not sure. But anyway, yeah, so that's where we're at now. And we're still in this whole waiting game with this big laundry list of contractors that just can't seem to give us a call back. That's not, I mean, that's kind of
wonders out there.
That's kind of a shot.
Looking for work.
Yeah, that's kind of a shot at some of the local construction contractors around here. It's a wild world to be in right now. Like I couldn't imagine trying to build a new home or do anything because of the busyness of them.
Yeah.
Because of their lack of workers. Like they can't get anybody to work. That nobody wants to work. Nobody wants to build homes and shit like that. So it's just kind of in a tough spot all the way around. But we're kind of in limbo with this big addition that we've been talking about for the last 2 or 3 years, where we've got plans drawn up. We've got blueprints. We've got everything we need to go. We just have had 5 or 6 people come over, look at it, walk around, take pictures, measure, write notes in their notebook, and then never call you back. It's a very frustrating deal. But that's where we're at. I need a new roof. I need new siding.
Well, we know a roofer.
Yeah, I know. And he's come over and bailed me out twice now, 3 times. And he's like, man, you need a new roof. I said, yeah, I know, bro. But I just
rip it all off soon anyway.
I know.
The plan.
And that's the problem. That's where we're at.
A good spring project for us.
Put a roof on?
Yeah.
I mean,
Not if you're going to rip it off to do an addition.
See, that's the problem. Same way with this thing. Like when we had recently talked to Jose, I was like, Justine's like, okay, what do I need to start picking out siding? Like for the future, like for the big, like when we're done, do I need to nail down that decision here in the next like 5 days? Because she's like, I know I want composite. I know I want hardy board. I want shake eaves. I want, she's got all all these decisions are already made. Like she's got
waiting on somebody.
She's got it all in her mind, and wrote down and on paper. And he's like, no, I wouldn't waste your time with that, because if this shit's going to change, it's all going to change. Because especially right there where that transition's at. So she's like, God, I hate vinyl. And he's like, yeah, I know, but a box of vinyl is $300, and that'll cover 2 square, and that's what you need.
Now, when you do your because you're talking about like the hardy board, like
the exterior wall, like the outside finishing. The hardy board.
I'm trying to think of what I'm like planks like that.
Mm-hmm. Board and batten.
Yeah, you don't want to get it pre-painted. You want to paint it yourself.
Do I?
Yeah, because you're gonna have to do some caulking on that to fill some of those gaps, and there's some other ways to hang
filling
it.
gaps.
Bet you do, big fella.
But yeah, so that's where I'm at, man. We just kind of hit a fork in the road, and it's just something that I'm not going to deal with. I wasn't wanting to deal with. I was wanting to paint that stairwell, and then like this weekend after we got some free time, run down to Lowe's and get the flooring and get that going, and hopefully try to get them girls transitioned down there in the next month or so. But boy, oh boy,
My buddy Jose worked construction with Jose.
he's a great guy, man.
We go way back.
He's a great dude.
We worked together a lot.
Yeah.
We worked together a lot.
He was on the original crew that did, when we bought that place, it was in rough shape. Mm-hmm. And Justine was working with a gal over at the hospital, and her husband was just kind of getting started. And Justine and I were like, well, it, let's give him a shot. And they did really good work, And Jose was on that original crew, and now he's blossomed into what he's got going on today. They
Guy loves to work.
Yeah, man, big time, and he just can't find anybody that don't want to.
It's kind of not to
wait a minute. He can't find anybody that wants to.
Not to detract from it, but it's like when we talked to our buddy Chuck about trucking, and I talked to my dad about it.
Times have changed, man.
It used to be an honest profession.
Yeah,
not a come by night. In the turnip truck last night kind of deal. Like you had guys like it was an honorable and noble, like it meant something.
Yep.
And some of these old time construction guys, like that's what it was. It wasn't just a job because you needed one because you're on work release or you had child support. It was a profession.
Yeah.
You were a tradesman.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate that has changed, and the connotation of which that has changed, because this is what is the result of that.
I know it's frustrating, very frustrating. So,
Hey,
but guess what?
here,
It'll work.
grab that other hand.
It'll work.
Sending you positive vibes.
We'll get
Positive
through
vibes,
it,
buddy.
Hey, I'm too blessed to be stressed.
That's right.
boys.
That's
Hell
right.
yeah.
Hell
Hey,
yeah.
you got all that big podcast money. You just
That's
build
right.
your new
Especially
house.
and that big old
Half pot.
half pot.
Oh yeah. Well, you
Now,
burnt
what
that
if you
through.
win this weekend?
I don't know.
What would be the chance that he goes on a streak of half pot winners?
I ain't donating them back either.
I wouldn't expect it.